Those I considered sons and daughters sat before me. The room was thick with a sense of young adult excitement. Would that be the correct word? The chatter from the group was constant and mixed with moments of unexpected laughter and amazement. Their beautiful faces were so alive. They forgot that I was there, in the corner, watching them. That seemed to happen a lot. They seemed to have such joy and such relief and anticipation. And I sat quietly in the corner watching their faces, trying to memorize and create images of their faces that would never leave my mind. My head was trying to hold on to every moment because my heart was afraid. My heart was afraid that if I stopped paying attention to their faces, that my face would begin to show what it was feeling. I needed to remain unnoticeable. I needed to sit quietly in the corner and let them have this moment. I mean, isn't that what mothers do? Isn't that, let's be honest, what women do? They hold it together. In the midst of all that life throws at them for the sake of others. They set aside their own emotions so that others have a safe place to share their feelings. This last month had been such a whirlwind of ups and downs, such extreme emotions and events had plagued our little community. And for them, it seemed like this was the moment where things were beginning to stabilize. This time, as they gathered around the table, they were more prepared for what they were going to have to do next. Their new norm had set in, and they were ready. They were ready to face it. Was I ready? No. My norm still seemed to be slightly shattered. I knew it was selfish of me to feel the way I felt. I was envious of the others in the room who could find such hope in this moment. Maybe I wasn't really being supportive of them. Maybe I was just trying to save my own face. Maybe I could pretend that I felt what they felt when I was watching them. Maybe I could reflect what they felt and not really have to experience the deep ache that I felt. Just like my unnoticed corner, I've been unnoticed on the Mount of Olives. I mean, for 40 days, we had all stood next to him without unceasing. Moments of them asking questions and seeking answers. They'd all left him such little room to breathe, and still he met their excitement with such passion. And I and the other women had quietly followed. It took everything in my power as I followed him to not push all those people away. But I knew my place. So I stood in the corners, and I let the image of his face, his smile, his hand gestures, that wandering section of his hair that would never quite behave. Heal my soul that had been so broken when I had seen him hanging on the cross. Had it all really happened? Had he died? Had he come back? And then there was that other question. Was he really gone? Was he really gone again? It was this selfish question that haunted my little corner. I mean, the others seemed so ready to embrace his message and live into it. They were so excited that he had shown them that there was light beyond death and light beyond darkness. So why, inside my soul and my heart, did it sometimes still feel so dark? I mean, I watched people just walk into the room, join in the conversation. They felt so full when I still felt so empty. They had so much of his type of life and light in them now. They were radiant. During the last 40 days, this spirit-filled energy had been growing. The spirit that leapt into my heart with song. That moment when I had prepared for him to enter this world, it all of a sudden had like leapt into their hearts with the same type of sense of depth. And I have to admit, I loved watching it grow inside him and grow inside all of them. And I loved knowing that he never forgot me. He never really forgot any of us. And there were those moments that all sons do. Those moments when they just look over. And even though they were adults, their face still looked like that little boy you once knew, who wanted to be independent, but still secretly wanted to know that his mom was nearby. Even when I knew that he was long past needing me just in case, he knew that I needed to know that he was there for me, just in case. And in that corner, in my corner, I was desperate for that look. I selfishly wanted him in that moment. I needed someone, and I wanted him to notice me in my corner. I needed his eyes and that crazy piece of hair to quickly catch my eyes and let me know that it was all okay. I strained the longest as I watched him ascend into heaven. I had heard the words of the strangers who told us that it was time to leave, but I did not want to heed them. I was his mother, and I was standing there as long as it takes. And I looked up, and I looked up, and he was gone. And I found my face turning down in prayer. The tears had begun to flow. I was sitting in my corner. I felt a hand on my shoulder. I couldn't bear to look up. It was so embarrassing. In my corner, I was crying in the midst of all of their joy. I was so embarrassed for my weakness. The person moved to my level. Mother? Was it him? No. I knew that voice. I know the voice of all the children I love. Those that are mine and those that aren't. It was Peter. And while Peter wasn't my actual son, I knew how he loved to bite his nails. And I knew his eyes too. His eyes looked so much older than they had a few hours ago. I realized how much the burden all of a sudden was going to fall on him. And in the midst of all of this joy and happiness, he recognized how much he had been called to lead. And in that moment of realization, it sought me out in my corner. He said, "I need you, Mother." I hugged him for what felt like forever. And I saw that my other sons and daughters, both actually mine and those that weren't mine at all of a sudden turned to look at us. And of course, Mary Magdalene said, "We miss him too." I know. But he was my son. He was the son. And a few of them gave that uncomfortable giggle that comes when a moment has so much emotion. It was up to us. It was up to all of us. They also wanted to see his face of comfort, but when they couldn't see it, they had started to look at mine. They did not believe my put-on appearance. My children were not going to just let me sit in the corner. They were going to force me, as children so often do, to get outside of myself and still see the beauty in the midst of the struggles. Peter said softly for all to hear, "Do not forget that he taught all of us that there's always more to the story." There's another pause. We all just looked at one another. And I found myself needing to speak the same words that the angel so long ago had spoken to me. Do not be afraid. We have found favor with God. Then we got to work. And I came out of my corner.